Thank you, Senator Paul.
Congratulations to all of you for your nomination, and as a proud father of 2 Kentucky Wildcats, particular congratulations to my fellow Kentuckian, Kelly Knight. And sometimes when we put things forward, we don't get the whole truth, and so we heard a little bit from the senator from Indiana about a particular game in 2011. But I think there was a rematch later in the NCAA finals. Do you remember who won the rematch?
Of course. The Kentucky Wildcats.
All right, and then do you remember who were the national champions that year? Kentucky Wildcats, absolutely. But I think we've set the record straight there. I have a little bit more of a serious sort of point, and then maybe we'll see if anybody, we get a response. I think it's important that we remember that the State Department's not the Pentagon. We have a Pentagon. We have the mightiest military in the world, and for most of you, and we may exclude NATO to a certain extent, but for most of you, your job is with the State Department, not the Pentagon. And there's a different role. I mean, the Pentagon is to have the mightiest defense and to be able to wipe out any enemy that should strike us, to be prepared, to try to deter attack, et cetera. But the job of the State Department is different. Your job is one of friendship and trade, and you're going to be going to friendly countries. Obviously, I jokingly say I don't want war with Canada or Italy or England, but it is important that your role in the world, as you're out there mixing with other ambassadors in your region of the world, your role is to foster peace, and I think that's important. Ms. McFarland, I think, was involved with Secretary Weinberger and the Weinberger Doctrine, which she knows I'm aware of. And, you know, part of that was that we only go to war under certain circumstances. It wasn't that we're ever gleeful for war. It was that we restrict and restrain ourselves to only going to war. One of the points of the Weinberger Doctrine is we go to war under last resort. One was that we go under when there are vital national interests. I think sometimes we get sloppy with that one. We just say everything's in our vital national interest, and that's really a conclusion that requires debate and the facts on both sides before we go. But you know, my hope is always that there is a sufficient voice for war being the last resort. I'm not saying we never go, but State Department's supposed to be part of that to a certain extent at NATO also. It's about preparedness, but still the goal of NATO is defense, not offense. And I just hope all of you will remember that and realize that, you know, really part of your role is to try to preserve peace and keep peace. And if you'd like to, since I named you, Ms. McFarland, you're welcome to respond about the Weinberger Doctrine, your role, or what your thoughts are about your role in the world, or our role in the world.
Thank you very much, Senator Paul. You and I have had this conversation a number of times about the Weinberger Doctrine. I was privileged enough to be at the Pentagon in the Reagan administration, worked for Secretary Weinberger, and helped craft the speech that he delivered that was the Weinberger Doctrine. And there were several points to it, and these were guidelines of when the United States should consider going to war or using combat forces overseas. One of the considerations was that we would do so to protect our vital national interests, that we would do so with a clear idea of what was required, that would also have the full support of the American people. And finally, that our objective would be to win and to prevail. So I know that that's something that has guided your own thinking in national security issues, and I thank you for the opportunity to discuss it, Senator.